to the Saturday morning live stream. Today I am alone, unfortunately. Will has been encountered by a few senators in an alleyway. Many of you may get that joke. It'll roll on, and hopefully you'll see the theme kind of starting to emerge from our last build, which was render onto Caesar. And now today we are doing E2 Brute. I don't know actually how to pronounce it or anything to that effect. I'm trying. We're just going off of a few Google how to pronounce videos and things. So we'll kind of see from there. I'm kind of a little bit rambling to start off with. We changed a little bit of the audio setup right now, so I'm actually running a lapel mic rather than naturals off the nats off the camera. Chris is kind of checking the audio over there, so I'm waiting for him to kind of adjust levels to make sure that you guys don't miss any important things about this build. So we do apologize for a lot of the promises that we keep making and then not following through on them with audio changes and cameras. We just keep screwing up and either getting the wrong cable or forgetting the cables and things. So the camera, which is actually directly above me, works. It's okay. It's not the best camera in the world, but it's actually pretty decent for the top-down view. The issue is we ran out of power cables, so we don't actually have a micro USB to plug into there, which is a bit of a bummer. Yeah, but we'll get that up and running. That should be definitely by next stream. And then audio setup, we're still kind of experimenting and working on. We think we have a pretty decent solution nailed down. We just need to kind of save up some cash for it because we're basically going all in on it. So it's not going to be a cheapo depot, $20 microphone setup or anything to that anymore. And Chris is intently staring at his phone, and I'm going to check my phone here just real quick because I have the YouTube open with the stream.
Kind of quiet.
Yeah, it probably is going to be. So I was saying boost up the camera audio because we're running it through the camera.
Yeah, that's good.
So I do apologize again for jumping on my phone, but we kind of need to make sure that the audio levels are decent.
Oh, that's much better. So my phone's maxed out.
Yeah, I can hear it. It actually sounds pretty good.
Okay.
Solid. Okay. So this is Top Flight Computers. We are running now with a lapel mic, which you probably can see right down here. Sorry, I tapped it. It's probably going to sound terrible. Running with the lapel mic. It's unfortunately not a wireless pack, so we actually have a really long cable running underneath the table here. And if you guys see that, I apologize. Again, we're just trying out. Since Will's not here, we can actually use a lapel mic setup, or I forget the other name for these. What they call them.
Oh, that mic?
Lab mic, there we go. But anyway, we will move on to this build. It is E2 Brute. This is, again, another system, or is a system.
We are green.
We are green, perfect. So quickly to explain that. We are now on YouTube, as you guys are watching this. It comes up with different colors for how the stream is going. Based on bit rates, videos, without going too technical. Basically how good the video input is and the audio input and how well it's uploaded. So it was yellow and we were a little worried about that, but now it kicked over to green, so it's awesome. So correct me if I'm wrong, this is for a client that we built another computer for, right?
Render onto Caesar.
Okay, so that was planned.
Yes.
Okay, I thought it was just a random coincidence.
No,
I was like, wow.
Pretty sure that I haven't talked to him about it, but I'm pretty sure it was planned.
Alright, so there's another system that we built for this client. It's called Render onto Caesar. Is another awesome system. These are, that one and this new one is going to be a CAD workstation, specifically designed for outdoor CAD. For, are we allowed to call out the name? For who it's for?
Current outdoor.
Yeah, it's on here. I just want to make sure. So yeah, it's for Currin, C-U-R-R-I-N, outdoor living. If you guys want to, if you click on the link in the video description, it'll take you to our website, and that'll kind of give you a deeper breakdown of everything. It also has their website linked on there if you want to check out what they do. So this system is designed around the i7 9700K, not the 9900K. I was looking for the big box. I thought it was a 99. So it's a 9700K. We're cooling it with a Dark Rock 4, which is a really, really awesome cooler. We're then putting that inside of an MSI MPG Z390 Gaming Edge AC, mouthful of a motherboard. In that motherboard, we're going to be putting 16 gigs of DDR4 Vengeance LPX. For storage, we're using a 512 gig M.2, and for, it's not really gaming, it's just for graphics acceleration, we're using the GTX 1060. Again, AutoCAD is a very processor-heavy kind of program. It's not a, you're not doing many 3D things in AutoCAD. In other CAD softwares you will, but not in AutoCAD. And that's going inside of the Fractal Design Focus G and Gunmetal. And I know you guys probably can't see this very well and can't really convey it over the stream, but the paint job on this case is actually really, really good.
Yeah, it is.
Like, it's almost like automotive grade paint, doesn't it? Like, it's legitimately, it's yeah. Yeah.
Pretty darn good.
It's pretty good. It's not like powder coated or anything like that. It's actual paint is what it seems like, because it's completely smooth. It's awesome. Hopefully we'll try to capture some of that in our pictures at the end of it, but they're not really going to do justice on that. Also, to power all of this, we're using an EVGA 650 CQ? GQ. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to try to limit my movement because I am basically tied to the camera, so if I rapidly stand up, you will fall over. And it will be interesting. Yeah, there's not much play in it. I already used that extension cable.
Sorry.
It's all good. I mean, it works for, I have enough play. Yeah, I have enough. So we're gonna set some things aside here. I now actually have space to work. I know. Usually Will's here, or another presenter is here. But this one's a pretty simple one, nothing too drastically crazy. So, pretty certain that I can handle it. But that being said, we shall see. And I need M.2 screws. There we go. We have not worked with this motherboard yet, have we?
No, we haven't.
That's a new one. Top cam. Just kidding. We'll get there. We'll get there next stream. We promise. That'll be we just need one cable, which is frustrating because it's a micro USB cable, which is probably the most prominent cable ever made. Yeah, I mean, I would argue that that's pretty close to the most produced cable.
I'm gonna take a look around now.
Chris is now looking for it, for a cable. And we shall see. So let us know what you guys think about the audio. It's definitely increased from what it was. I mean, if the stream starts going a little longer, we can actually do some side-by-side comparisons, or Chris will unplug from the camera and you guys can kind of hear what we were running with what we have now. Just a fair warning on that, it will probably be loud because we had to boost the lapel mic.
It's super boosted up right now.
Oh yeah. Well, you want to record low because then if you get loud and start to get louder and louder, then it doesn't like blow people's eardrums out. And you also don't get overmodulation and things. So right now I'm trying to get the little plastic peely-doos off the RAM. Yeah, we'll definitely get that set up for next time. Yay. If random things are flying into screen, that's because Chris is over there. I don't actually know if you guys can hear him rummaging around. He may not be, because I think the lapel mics are pretty decent. The lavalier mics are pretty decent. I know this one's actually a half decent one too. Got it from a video production professional. for this one. So we shall see. Awesome, so RAM is installed. I will go ahead and throw in the M.2. I'll throw in the processor, and then we'll throw in the mounting brackets for the Dark Rock 4. And then that'll be about it for what we need to throw in on the motherboard itself. Awesome. So that's an interesting way to do it. So this MSI motherboard has a pre-installed standoff that you just kind of unscrew and then move to the length of your SSD and then screw it back in. A little bit different than normal. Yeah, because normally the typical ones that we encounter they usually have a heatsink on them or something similar. Heatsinks are not needed for M.2. They really don't get that astronomically hot, or really hot in general.
Except the new ones, they get
Yeah.
they get pretty warm.
Those are the, what, PCIe 4.0 ones? Sorry if you guys cannot hear Chris. That is kind of a downside to this now, because we now have a better microphone that's only picking up me, and not Chris, who's halfway across the room. Chris was saying, I'll reiterate to you guys if you did not hear, he was saying that the new M.2s, the PCIe 4.0, so basically the new Ryzen ones, get a little bit toastier than what many people like. So those you may want to get motherboards with, what is it, passive cooling technically? Yeah. Yeah, so the passive cooling heat sinks that go on top of it. Just food for thought if you're going down that route. Because you will get diminishing, or not diminishing returns, but you will get rougher performance with hotter SSDs. And you don't want a slow SSD, because that would be pointless. Because that would be getting a fast car and then only going 5 miles an hour. Defeats the purpose. Don't actually need the cooler itself yet, because we will install that last. But inside of the Dark Rock 4, there is the wonderful Be Quiet screwdrivers, which will be in the back. For those joining us, welcome to the Saturday live stream. I have been kind of talking a little bit, rambling. This is E2 Brute. It is a successor, a brother, I guess, to another system that we are doing, that we have built, render onto Caesar. Hopefully you guys kind of see where it's going. I'm not going to really point it out. I'm just going to let that ride where it is. This is a AutoCAD machine. And that means, sorry, I'm trying to figure out what brackets I need. So it is an AutoCAD machine, which means it does what's called computer-aided drawing or computer-aided drafting. It kind of depends on what you want to say. It kind of bounce around. Some people will say either or. What that basically is just the ability to draw in a computer and kind of do architectural plans, or I believe these guys do landscaping, right? Yep. So landscaping plans and things to that effect. We need processor. It allows you to get very, very accurate and very, very detailed plans and things to that effect. Then you can print them out as, PDFs or really whatever format you need. Large scale, print them out at, 21 by 9, that's an aspect ratio. 11 by 17 and things like that if you're trying to go for larger plans, and then you can give those to the folks that actually go out into the field, and they can have a kind of blueprint or layout of how things are supposed to go. So this is a quick fun story. Where I work currently is I do telecom designing. So I design telecommunication towers, but the CAD system that I had was a not to shout it out, but it was a Dell something or other workstation, and it was rough because the Dell Precision Boost had an AutoCAD profile that it was, the CPU that was inside of it was a i7 7700K, which is a quad-core 8-thread processor. The issue is the AutoCAD optimized profile turned off all of the cores except 2 cores and 2 threads. Yeah. And the fun part is you couldn't uninstall it. So our IT guy was not happy because he didn't really, he ended up figuring it out, and we had to install 3 or 4 different softwares to uninstall that one software. It was interesting, to say the least. And I'm actually going to pull out the manual for this, because I forget the order of where the rubber grommet goes. One kind of cool thing about One kind of cool thing about Be Quiet is they include a bunch of manuals in all different languages. You know, French, Dutch. There's the English one. I need that one. Just a mess ton of manuals and things to that effect. Naturally, I assume so they can just ship it overseas and don't have to change any of the packaging or anything to that effect. But it's kind of cool, kind of interesting. All right, we're not doing AM4. That's how it goes. So in the packaging there is, or in this kind of setup, there are these rubber grommet thingies, or rubber O-rings, and it's just basically to provide some separation between the metal and the backplate there, and it holds the screw in. It's kind of a quick little ingenious little way to do that, which is quite nice. Which is awesome. And if you guys are interested, we have many of our other builds that are posted on Facebook, and I think the majority of our things are posted on the website.
All of them are on the site.
Yeah, so if you guys are interested in seeing other systems like the one before this one, which is Render on 2 Caesar, you guys can jump onto the website and poke around through the, build gallery, I think is what it's called.
I'll put some links down below.
Alright, and Chris will toss some links down below. If you guys want to explore a few more things that we have done in the past. I moved back too far. So that's interesting. So I have to pull out the... It's been a while since we've installed a Dark Rock 4 on an Intel CPU. We've done it on Ryzen's and AM4s frequently, but...
Yeah, the last time that we put a Dark Rock 4, was White Comet, which was a very long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I was wrong. Okay. They showed these little circular, cylindrical pieces, but they didn't really have any details on them, so I got them confused with the differences between the AMD ones, to these ones, which are just smooth and they're just a hole all the way through, versus this one, which is actually threaded on both sides. It was interesting.
For shame.
I know. Can't read manuals. I can't read pictorial manuals. I was very confused of like, why do I need to open up the AM4 mounting bracket bag for an Intel CPU? I was very confused. And then it was like, oh yeah, thread this side into here. And I was like, no.
No.
This is hollow. There are no threads. Flashbacks to to Will, the 35-minute air cooler. Just messing. We one of my good friends, who is also one of our other presenters, we kind of trial by fired him. I think it was actually this cooler. I think it was a Dark Rock 4.
Which build was that?
I don't remember. It was one of the really big air coolers. But
we put a dual tower Phanteks cooler in Grimm with the two blower video cards.
yeah.
I remember that being a pain.
Does this go inside? Outside? Inside? Yeah, inside. Yeah, and it was I felt bad. It was a rough stream.
Rough. RUFF.
So if you guys are actually out there and people are watching, I would love if you could comment on this and ask or tell us how the audio game is. How does it sound? Because that's the we're trying to improve that. That's going to be the kind of the next thing that we're going for after we get this dumb camera up and working. It's above me. I would stand up and pull it down like I usually do, but I would probably yank the camera down in this instance. So we're gonna not do that.
And then probably not long after we get that camera online, we may change it out.
Yeah, we'll probably change it out. The camera that we have up there right now is a very old. It's a JVC HD, which right there off the bat, I don't think JVC is even in business anymore. It's a very, very old little camcorder thing. It's just kind of there as a proof of concept, see if we could get it to work. Now that we kind of got it to work, awesome. This whole setup that we have actually going, we've invested a whopping, I think, $8 into a cable for the second camera setup.
The second cable is like $8. The longer cable was like $10.
Oh man! So we put a whopping $18 into this setup so far. Everything else is actually being reused. My father is a videographer, and we built a jib. And when I say it's janky, we'll do a little thing of it once we kick it up and get it into working. It's a broken tripod with a lot of L angle brackets and things, and big bolts and giant metal tubes that work. And like, it actually doesn't look bad, which is the funnier part, and it works really well. It was a Home Depot build that I think we built a few years ago. And it works pretty well, surprisingly, for what it is. I'm going to toss the, oops. I use the big ones or the small ones? Oh no, I use the right ones. Those are threaded, let's say. So, CPU is installed, RAM is installed. We then have our M.2 installed. So I'm going to take the motherboard. I'm actually going to set it aside for now. And we will jump into probably the case, because we need to switch out some fans into there. We'll install the CPU cooler here in a little bit. Oof, that probably didn't sound wonderful. We'll install the CPU cooler here in a little bit. And then, that'll be after we get kind of everything in. We'll have Chris, I don't know, maybe come in monologue. I don't know. On cable managing or something.
Sure.
We'll figure some sort of entertainment out. Look at that. Is this a modular or semi?
Semi-modular.
This is a semi-modular, which for those of you that do not know, semi-modular is, there are three different kinds of power supplies. So there is non-modular, there is semi-modular, and there is fully modular. Semi means that the main cables, so your 24-pin, your CPU, etc., are already pre-installed. They can't come unplugged. I prefer semi-modular, personally, unless you're trying to do like a very large show build or something, where you want to change out all the cables. And with the semi-modular, you can't actually change out the 24-pin. You have to get a cable extension for those. It's just kind of each their own. But personally, I like the semi-modular because you're never going to take the 24-pin out. In actually, I think all cases. I don't know of any case, Chris, you may be able to correct me on this, that does not, or a motherboard or a platform that does not use a 24 pin.
Well, some platforms use two 24 pins.
Yeah, but you're never gonna take out the 24 pin,
Right.
you know?
Right.
I'm trying to think, like, even old, that goes back to, like, second and third generation processors, like Intel, they still take 24 pins.
I mean, some, like, super small boards that don't actually need that much power can...
Like Arduinos and things, yeah.
Yeah, but that's a whole different category of system.
So if you guys did not hear that, gosh, this is going to be something to get used to, because I think that the range probably doesn't pick you up in that distance. Yeah. What Chris was saying is there are some, in some cases, not cases, but in some use cases, you will actually don't need the 24 pin in computers that are really, really, really low powered. So Arduinos, Raspberry Pis, I think they can get through USB. You know, those kinds of things. And I'm sure there's probably some cases that are really tiny that take, what is that, 20 pin? They have a little jumper for the 24, so I assume there's probably a 20 pin something or other. And if you guys know, drop a comment, let us know. It's probably some server thing. I don't know, probably some random thing like that. Alright, we need a 8 and a 6 pin for this. So, for those of you that don't know, and that haven't actually had like hands-on in this, excuse me, a 8 and a 4. I don't know where I got 6. CPU and VGA cables look very, very, very similar, but the pinouts are actually, not the pinouts, excuse me, the shapes are different. So they will alternate between like, what are they, semicircles-ish, lack of a better term, semicircles and squares, and they'll kind of alternate differently. So it's kind of make sure that you don't try to plug a VGA cable into a CPU port or CPU into a VGA. That gets some people in trouble, and they're trying to upgrade some older systems because they're like, oh yeah, I have a 6 pin or an 8 pin, it's right here, awesome, and then they end up trying to shove a CPU header into a graphics card, which is not good for the graphics card, to say the least. Speak of graphics card, we're throwing in a Zotac 1016. Again, this is not for gaming, it's for a business use case. It's only used for hardware acceleration in CAD. I'm pulling it out right now because I need to see the power requirements for it.
Would be a good computer for gaming though. Like,
it would be?
Although,
I mean, the 1060 is a little
low. I mean,
it would work.
I would not generally spec a 9700K with a 1060 for gaming.
Correct. So what Chris is saying, it's an 8 pin for this, is this would be a good system for gaming, but typically it's a little outweighted spec because we're talking a really, really high-end processor with a mid to low range last generation graphics card. So typically would not spec something like that. But it's not a bad starting system to move on to then go into a gaming kind of sense. So doable. If you are interested in talking a little bit more about kind of maybe not this build, but just in general, computers in general, and some really good memes and things to that effect, go ahead and follow us on Facebook. And on our Facebook, in the bottom left-hand corner, if you are on computer, is a little groups tab. Under the groups tab, you can request to join the Top Flight crew, which you should do because we're getting shirts soon, and there will only be available to the group. They will not be for sale anywhere else, or the ability to even get them anywhere else. They're actually really good looking shirts. We spent a while kind of designing those. So they'll be coming here pretty soon. Gosh, the paint on this is just, it's something that you don't see very often, because in many cases, meaning in both sense, cases and use cases, they will powder coat because it's cheaper, it's faster, and it's a stronger coating. But this looks super good. It's very glossy, but it doesn't take fingerprints. Like there are no fingerprints that are getting stuck on it. It's pretty cool. Pretty nice of a case. Alright, so we have 3 new Phanteks fans that we are tossing in here. I assume 2 in the front, 1 in the top.
1 in the back.
1 in the back. So we have 3 new Phanteks fans.
Yeah, so we're taking out the current ones.
Yeah,
Okay.
I figured that.
Cool.
There are 2 in here that are, they look like, they're the Silent LL series of Fractal design fans. They're decent, but they're flashy. Pun intended. They're actually, I think, white LED fans. And they're not the best for this use case, since this is more of a workstation and is going to be put in a more professional environment. Something that needs to be just good looking, clean looking, professional looking, and that will work really well. And not have to worry about it overheating or anything to that effect. What's interesting about this is we do not have a power supply shroud. It's been a while since we've had a case that we have not had a power supply shroud.
Case was chosen for airflow and mainly cost and looks.
Oh yeah.
Like a $55 case?
Really?
Yeah.
Really? That is surprising. So what Chris was saying is that this was more of a budget-oriented case. It was chosen because of the need for really good airflow. It doesn't need to be flashy, doesn't need to be any, RGB tempered glass and things. Again, it's going in a professional environment, so you don't want those kinds of things in many cases. And it's actually a budget-oriented case, and the looks of it are really, really good, surprisingly, for such a low-budget case, or lower-budget case, I should say. This is probably, I know I can speak for Chris on this one, this is about the lowest that will go for a budget kind of oriented case, because once you go below this kind of price point, you start getting into those really cheapo-deepo Chinese knockoff cases that are really hit or miss. We really do not work in those in many cases. Just, they're not good. They're cheap plastics and metals and things like that, and they will not really hold up. Alright, so I just tossed in the power supply here quickly. I'll toss in the rear fan while we're sitting here, and then I'll jump up to the front. I am also sorry about the new audio sounds that are probably ripping through headphone users right now. Opening the plastics and things, because you're sitting 2 inches away from the box opening. So you're probably getting a much more visceral experience than what you were expecting. Yeah. So, I do apologize for that. So yeah, the plan for coming up in the future, we have audio setups coming, we have cases falling down. That probably sounded wonderful. It doesn't have any retention mechanisms on the back. Oh, Chris's.
Boom.
Boom. Yep. So it doesn't actually have any retention mechanisms on the back of the case, like many cases do. That's something to keep in mind. I'm just going to throw in the I/O shield so I don't forget it, and I don't accidentally try to route a cable underneath it. We've done that in the past. We haven't shipped it out to a client or anything like that, but we've ran this fan with a thinner cable, and then we put it in the I/O shield, and it doesn't go in because the I/O shield is being blocked by the cable. Throw this in here real quick. for many PC builders, the I/O shield is probably the scariest moment because you literally have to push a piece of metal into a piece of metal and flex the living daylights out of it. And yeah.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
And you got to put some force on it, and not many people don't like to push computer components and things together. You're supposed to slide in nicely and screw in nicely, not, you know, throw the force of Zeus into it until it'll pop in. Another reason why we went with these fans is silence. So the original fans are just plastic on metal, so initially they're not going to be an issue. They're new fans, so they're balanced from the factory and things to that effect. But as they wear down, or as the bearings inside wear down, and there starts to become friction, and there starts to become some off balance and things, they'll start vibrating and they'll start making noises, and they'll start making wub wub noises, and they'll just compound and continuously just get worse and worse. And since it's plastic on metal, it'll make that kind of sound. I was trying to make not a visual or verbal, audible description, and then I proceed to drop the screw. But you'll get a lot of like vibrations and things to that effect, and it'll just sound really, really bad and nasty. In this case, these Phanteks fans actually have a rubber pad. I don't have one out. I just threw one in here. You guys can kind of see them here. There's actually a rubber dampener between the case and the fan itself. So all these screws are actually still loose, but I'll just kind of vibrate it a little bit. You guys probably can barely hear that. And that metal tapping sound that you're hearing is me just bottoming out the screw in the little hole there. So they're really, really good. Again, another reason why we chose these fans.
So there's a guy that may buy a computer from us probably the next couple weeks that I know from LinkedIn. He's now watching it. He said that he's cut his fingers quite a lot with the I/O shield.
He's doing what?
He's cut his fingers a lot.
Oh, yes.
With the I/O shield.
That is also, so what Chris just said is there's a gentleman watching who has built computers in the past and is cut himself on the I/O shields, because I/O shields nowadays aren't bad. Back even 2 generations, back to like the 6000 series for Intel. So yeah, about 2 years ago, right? Year and a half, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. A few years ago, we'll leave it at that. A few years ago, they didn't put a lot of effort into making their I/O shields user-friendly. So they're thin pieces of sheet metal and metal and things like that, and it's very, very easy to put a lot of force on it and slip. And like all of these connections, I don't think you guys, I can try to get a decent angle on this, but these pieces here, they're kind of used for tension on the motherboard and things. They are actually very, very, very thin, and they are sharp. So when you're putting a lot of pressure on something and you slip, you just get a little nick, and it is not wonderful. And any PC builder can attest to that. So I apologize for this loud noise that is about to happen. I have to pop the front of the case off, and it is not going to be fun. I'll try to make it as quiet as possible, but we shall see. Okay, that wasn't too terrible. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of marveling at there is a dust filter in here. It is non-removable, but there is actually a pretty decent dust filter in here. It's one of those pieces of like foam, like thin foam.
Nice. Inside
of there. And at a budget-oriented case, it's something nice to see that they include that. So these are the fans that come in it. These are the Silent LL series of Fractal fans. They're not terrible by any means, but there are better. There are much better, and we're replacing them with such. So if you guys are just joining us, welcome to the Saturday morning live stream. This is E2 Brute. I think I pronounced that correctly, or relatively correctly. This is a follow-up build, or another build for the same client that we built the computer render onto Caesar for. I am missing a co-host today. The usual Will is usually here. He was met in an alleyway by some senators, so he will not be joining us. Chris just looking around.
What?
You'll get the reference. Think of the whole themality of everything. Chris still doesn't get it.
Nope.
I'll explain it to him after the stream. He doesn't get the joke. No, I'm just kidding about that though. Will just was busy today. I think his family's in town. Chris will get it, and then you'll just hear a little audible "oh" just in the distance. Like I was mentioning earlier, we changed up the audio setup a little bit, so I'm actually running a lapel mic, which you probably can kind of see right down here. It is a slight upgrade, actually probably a massive upgrade from the audio that we've been running. We have stayed away from lapel mics or lav mics. If you're kind of in the industry, you'll call them lav mics. We've kind of stayed away from them as of late, or as of recent, for a big audio change. The reason is because we usually have two presenters, and we don't want to invest the money into doing wireless packs and things to that effect, and trying to hook those up to computers and such. And then when you do that, then you would have to adjust levels every street. It would be a kind of a big pain in the butt. So when we have the single presenters and things, it's easy to just throw on a lapel mic and just wire it directly into the camera. So I apologize if you see a little cable underneath the set here, or our table. It's just how we're getting audio to the computer. It's pretty easy, pretty nice. Hopefully it sounds a lot better than what it used to. I mean, from what I heard on my phone, it sounds really good. So we have a pretty decent lapel mic, and unfortunately we have to run it through, I don't know, 10 feet of audio cable, so hopefully there's no hissing or anything like that.
How many buttons do we have on our Stream Deck?
We have 6, but we have the ability to do folders, so we can have as many as we want. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, my kind of comment about that.
So what Chris was asking, if you guys didn't hear, again, this is the first time really legitimately using a lav mic on stream. So I don't know how much you can hear Chris. I doubt you can actually hear him. He is sitting 15, 20 feet away?
Yeah.
15, 20 feet away. But what he was asking is, we have a Stream Deck over here, which is how we're going to be able to control all of our cameras. I can control scenes and things like that. We haven't really gotten a lot of use out of it just because we have one camera right now. But eventually we'll have more. It has 6 buttons on it as of right now. This is the base Stream Deck model. But what's cool about the Stream Deck and the Stream Deck software is it allows you to then go in and put folders, and you can actually have a button for a folder, and then you can put subfolders and folders inside of folders and things. So you have 6 immediate buttons, but then you could basically add whatever you need to beyond that.
So Mike says that he can hear me and my keyboard.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. That will be interesting. I don't know, I'll have to go back and watch the stream afterwards and see where our audio level's at. So that is a decent possibility. Yeah. One other thing that is a little bit of a bummer, why I'm not a huge fan of the lav mics and lapel mics, is the presenter is usually up and inside of cases and things to that effect. So even right here, I'm just trying to screw in things, and the metal on metal is going to be amplified a lot because it's sitting, the audience now is basically sitting 2 inches away from the screwdriver. Yeah, 6 inches away from the screwdriver. But just could be loud. So want to make sure that we don't go too crazy with that.
Mike says if we want that to go away, we have to play with the gain and the noise gate.
Yep. Oh yeah. Full disclosure, kind kind of a funny thing. We didn't have the lapel mic set up for the stream up until about a minute before we were supposed to go live. Chris ran to the bathroom, and I was like, you know what? We have one. We're going to plug it in and see. So I haven't actually been able to sit down and mess with levels or anything to that effect. It's just kind of been Chris adjusting just input volumes and things. Haven't gone crazy on this. This is not going to be our final audio setup. We have an audio setup in the works. We just are holding off on it for now. But we're going to be running some. Our studio space is actually really decently soundproofed, more or less, just because we have a giant room. And there's a lot of just stuff in here. What you guys are seeing is probably a tent.
That's probably about the same size as the old room.
Yeah, this what you guys are even seeing. So even just the little cone that you guys are kind of seeing, that's probably a 20th or even a 50th of this room. It's actually very large room. What you guys are behind that is a bunch of desks, a bunch of cubicles and things to that effect that are actually being used for game development for Cutie Humans. So there's a lot of artificial sound dampening-ish.
Yeah.
I guess, a lack of a better term of just natural sound dampening, I guess, for just stuff in here. So we're gonna try out a shotgun mic and see. Hopefully it's soundproof enough in this area that we're not gonna get reverb off of the back wall and things. We shouldn't.
Or we can put up some.
Yeah. Well, the issue is it's reverb actually off that wall and then coming back. Yeah, so that's why we kind of have to run some tests on it. I doubt that's going to be an issue, considering that wall is probably 100 feet away from me. So, we'll see. We'll definitely see. So right now I'm tossing the new fans on, the new Phanteks fans. Took out the old ones. I have already installed the CPU, the RAM, and the M.2 storage, so that's already on there. I also threw in the power supply already, and basically things left is going to throw in the motherboard next, then we're going to add in probably going to add in the CPU cooler. I'll probably plug in cables first, because that's the big thing. Plug in some cables, do some kind of cable management and things, and hopefully we can stay entertaining through the cable management phase, because that's always the rough one, the hard one. This would be a perfect time to switch to the top cam. I mean, we could switch to the top cam to just show it. I don't know, Chris, give me a look.
I don't like that. That sounds too many things could go wrong.
That's also very true.
And then we never get it back.
Yeah. Where did I put that? There it is. We do have the top cam plugged in. It's just the issue is we don't have a power cable for it, so it's actually just running off dead direct battery, and it's not a lot by any means. So we could switch to it, but Chris is giving me a stink eye saying no, so we're not going to. We'll do it next stream though, definitely. Grab that cable. Oh, because now would be a perfect time to switch over to it. So there's no hard drives going in this period, right?
Correct.
Perfect. I'm actually going to take out the drive bay, just because we don't need it. There's also a little dust filter on the bottom in this case too. I'm not going to take it out because it's one of those ones held in tension by a bunch of tabs all the way around it. But I mean, it's something at least. Which is not bad. So if you guys are just joining us, welcome again to the Saturday morning live stream. This is E2 Brute. It is a CAD workstation. Am I missing a screw? Oh, I am missing a screw. So this is a CAD workstation designed for specifically AutoCAD, and even more specifically, it's designed for landscape architecture, landscape design.
So they use
I don't know what the technical terminology for that is.
AutoCAD, Rhino, and Lumion.
Yeah, but is it landscaping design or is it landscaping architecture?
So
Or is it landscaping
here's
landscaping?
all So this is a render of their current project
As Chris walks over and,
in Lumion.
oh man, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, they do some really cool stuff. And the last computer that I built for them allows them to make those renders in a good amount of time.
A lot faster than what, yeah, it used to be.
Right.
Yeah.
That rig here isn't built for Lumion, it's just built to for CAD.
Yeah, just for CAD. So it was actually really cool. What Chris just showed me was a really awesome render that they did for. This case doesn't have pre-installed standoffs.
Well,
I need to install the standoffs. It was actually a really cool render of what this company does, which is an architectural render. It looked really, really cool. There's even dust filters on the top. It's really surprising. I will forgive the lack of installed pre-installed standoffs for the fact that this case actually has a fair amount of other extras that are pretty decent. So, standoffs, to those who do not know, are the little pegs that hold the motherboard off of the back of the case so that it does not short out on metal, as well as they allow a place for the motherboard to be screwed into so it can actually hold it in. Many cases nowadays, at least in the past, 3 or 4 years, have really gone to just pre-installed standoffs in many cases. They'll actually have them pre-installed. The whole idea behind it was, oh, it's adaptable, so you don't have to have all of the standoffs if you have, for example, a mini ITX or ATX motherboard. You don't have to have all the ugly standoffs in it. But it's just kind of been a changing trend in the previous years. Because I remember, gosh, 2-3 years ago when tech reviewers, one of the main positives at CES was, oh, pre-installed standoffs. Do you remember that, Chris? When that was a major selling point for cases.
Was that because it already had the screws in?
Pre-installed standoffs. That's just kind of something we just take for granted. Just yeah. So, in order to install those standoffs, you just need a screwdriver, and then they give you a little adapter, which is cool. It's just a hex to Phillips adapter, which kind of just allows you to easily screw these in. And their labeling scheme is really hard. All of the screw holes that have an A next to it are for ATX, and all of the ones that have an M next to it are for MATX. Mini ATX. Really hard. It's actually not terrible. I do like Fractal cases. We tend to enjoy Fractal products here. Again, Fractal Josh, if you're watching, hit us up. The only thing that I'm worried about with the new audio setup is, and I don't think you guys can hear it now, but we have a droning AC unit. Just makes really deep whoop whoops.
lapel mic tangled in all the cables. Awesome. All right. So now that we have the motherboard standoffs installed, I'm going to drop in our motherboard. Being careful not to touch the shiny plastic bits on this motherboard. They're unfortunately black shiny plastic, which means if you touch them, you're just going to immediately fingerprint them. Get fingerprints all over them. Got that in. What's up, Chris?
Oh, just having a nice little chat here with Mike.
Nice. Talking with people behind my back and see how it is.
Well, more of an around your back?
There you go.
Oh, that joke.
Alright, so the motherboard is almost in. This motherboard has a massive amount of connectors. Something I've never even seen before. Like, what is that? Is that an RGB connector? Oh, it is an RGB connector. That's a weird RGB connector. That's cool.
I can't wait to have that top camera.
I know. This top camera is desperately needed because it would work out perfectly here. I mean, we're going to experiment with it and see how it works out because I don't know how well the top cam is going to work out when we have two people. It'll be an interesting thing.
Why would it be?
Because one person could be over here doing something, one person could be over here, but not really in the scope of it. So we may need to move the camera and shift it over to here, or over to here. You know what I mean? And kind of get a...
Or we could set it at like an angle. And like not be like straight up, but like tilt.
No, because then you want this shot, which like this shot looks really good if you had a top down.
Yeah.
Which we're working on. Next street. Promise. Awesome. So we have the motherboard is installed. I'm gonna plug in this fan real quick. Let's see, we have the CPU fan. System fan. It's actually really nice having a lapel mic, to be blatantly honest, because then I don't have to talk in the general direction of the camera anymore. I can just talk normally. I don't have to like scream and yell at the camera, which is honestly quite nice. So like if I'm behind the case like this, normally you guys wouldn't be able to hear me, but I would argue you'd probably hear me perfectly fine. Need two power connectors on this CPU. There goes one, pretty easily. And two. Has to be flipped around. Huh. I was wondering why that connector looked familiar. On the motherboard, this MSI motherboard, they have a Corsair RGB connector. Yeah. That's just interesting. I'm gonna rotate the case a little bit so I can try to get this CPU cable plugged in. Excellent. There it goes. You coming to look at this cable?
Or just the whole build, yeah.
Like, look up here. Right up here. There's actually a Corsair cable.
Oh.
RGB cable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Interesting.
huh.
I know.
Like
It's kind of that, like, interesting. Oh, did you hit it?
well, it doesn't matter.
No.
No, I didn't.
See, but you would actually be able to walk in front of the camera, that camera, once we have the top cam, because it wouldn't be affected.
Right.
Cable management's gonna be a pain on this one, because there's no tie downs in the back here. Really. Actually, there's 1, 2, 3 down over in this area, and that's it. Well, we'll try to make it look best as we can, but we shall see. Alright, CPU gets plugged in update. So now I'm plugging in the front panel connectors. Power switch goes there. So I apologize for being quiet here, and just need to make sure that these things go on the right ports. Boom, and boom. This will be an interesting one for cable management. We shall see. HD audio goes all the way over here. Alright, I'm actually going to uninstall the power supply quickly, because I can run a HD audio cable up underneath it and it'll look a lot better rather than trying to jump all the way across the case. It'll just look bleh. I'll change that real quick. Nice. There we go. So see, the top down wouldn't. We need a side camera. We need 3 cameras. We just need to put a camera, a GoPro on Chris's head, and we can just randomly switch to the Chris cam.
Which, as I'm currently looking at a bunch of other stuff,
I know.
would be bad.
It'd just be funny. Just Chris cam. Just be him aggressively typing at his computer. Solid. Alright, so all of those are in. We have 2 fans that I would love to round up here. And do we have any fan ports? Where do we have fan ports? I'm tempted to just do some cable management here to kind of route some cables around some things, and we'll see how it works. Awesome. one CPU fan. Looking for more fan headers. Dang, I have 3 down here at the very bottom. But I don't know if I can make those work. Without getting it too weird. I guess we'll just do that. Do I have enough to?
Don't forget that the back panel, they aren't gonna see it.
I know. But I want to clear up this space
Uh-huh.
so you just don't have random cables going all the way through, just kind of there. That's all that I'm trying to do now. We shall see. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean you shouldn't cable manage it. One of the things that we like to do a lot is we do a lot of cable management. We make our things look half decent, usually. Typically.
Half is fine.
Yeah, just only half.
But you can't go full decent. Never go full decent.
No.
Oh, we've got a couple builds coming up that are gonna have a whole bunch of cables.
Yeah, I know. This one's nice because there's not as many cables. Like, there's barely any cables. It's just a matter of, like, well, if there's only a few cables, you might as well make them look really good.
We've got a build, should be approved next week with 8 hard drives
Ooh.
being shipped.
Yep, that'll be a fun one.
A RAID card, some SAS cables, SATA cables, always gonna be fun.
Yes, that one will be interesting. So hopefully you guys heard that Chris was saying that we have another build coming up potentially that's 8 hard drives.
8
Ooh,
WD black, 2 terabytes.
wonderful. So 8 hard drives.
In a full tower, in a pretty large Fractal designed the XL2.
Well, hopefully they have better tie downs than what's on the back of this, because
Yeah,
they're
it's
very
like,
minimal. on the back of
that's
this.
like $180 case. So
Yeah.
I would hope so.
I am still very surprised at the finish of this case. Like the paints. I'm still floored by that. Like if you told me that this was just by the outside like coating, I would expect this case to be a $100+ case. Just because the paint is something that I have not seen on really anything. It's quite good. Love the paint. Love the paint. Alright, that's all plugged in. That's all good. We'll do some cable management. We'll throw in the graphics card. We'll throw the CPU cooler on, which would be extraordinarily helpful. And then we'll call this one pretty good. So this is Render Onto Caesar was an older build that we did for this client. Continue with the Caesar theme, we have E2 Brute, which if you know, you know. We're not going to explain it. Google it if you need to. There's a pretty decent joke going on there. This is a CAD design system. It's for a landscaping company, which is a really awesome people that we've been dealing with. We're throwing that hardware that we're putting inside of the system we've already thrown it into, to the Fractal Design Focus G. It's in the Gunmetal. It's actually, I think it's paint. I want to say it's actually paint, but I could be wrong on that. It's almost like an automotive grade or level of paint. It's really, really good looking. I just wish our cameras could convey it. It's not going to. I'm sorry. You're just gonna have to kind of see it in person. Grr. I crossed a cable. I wasn't supposed to. Honestly, I'm just trying to make the back look as good as possible. Even though I know we're covering it up, but still. It's not like the case that we did my computer in, which was the Corsair 570X. That one has an all tempered glass back panel, and that's rough. Because you're actually going to see it. So everything has to be perfect for that kind of build. And we spent a while making that build as close to perfect as possible.
Which one?
Mine,
Oh, yes.
the show build.
Woof.
Yeah, that one took a while. So if you guys are interested in ever seeing that one, we will be at many shows, I don't know when.
Playthrough is next March.
Okay.
Ish, I think.
Oh, kind of coming up.
Yeah.
Probably nothing for this year.
No more shows for this year.
You want to go to New York Comic-Con, which is going on right now? The only reason I know that is because a lot of our friends that we met at the previous cons are actually there.
Oh yeah, I know.
I'm just like, oh my, I cannot imagine. New York Comic Con is a whole nother beast and a half. It's that's a convention. Sadly, I'm gonna have to jump this. You're just gonna have to see it.
There are about, whoa, they had 180,000 in 2016.
Yeah, I mean the booth numbers I know went up to 1,200 plus.
Wow.
And I'm sure there are more booths that I just know that one of our friends that went there, that has a booth there, they are booth number, I think, like 1,251. Something around that number. Which is just pretty astronomical. I mean, SuperCon was, what, 500 plus booths? I think.
I don't know.
Be quiet, screwdriver. Like usual. We have now 1, be quiet, 2, be quiet, 3, be quiet, 4, be quiet, 5, be quiet, and that's just within reach. If you summon if you hold all be quiet screwdrivers at once, all 5, all infinity screwdrivers, you can summon a new product. Be quiets have a little peelable sticker on the bottom, which they look really, really good. These things. These coolers I honestly love. Like if you're looking to get really good performance and quiet, it's in the name. Be Quiet is a wonderful, wonderful choice. Bless you, Chris.
Wolf.
Alright. And their thermal paste that they include is actually really decent too, which is another big plus. The reason why I personally like them is they're unbelievably easy to install. They're coolers. They are really, really easy. Well, like once you actually read the instructions, they're stupid easy just to throw the cooler on. And they include a really nice screwdriver, which is a long magnetic Phillips head, which is just an extra touch that Noctua and other brands do not include. Noctua includes a screwdriver, but it's just a giant, like right-angled piece of metal. It's not anything special. And it's, we used to have a bunch of them because they're really handy for installing CPU coolers and things, but they aren't that good compared to the Be Quiet ones. And you tighten everything down in this case there's just 2 screws, so just a back and forth pattern until it's tight. You don't have to go unbelievably tight. We've actually heard stories of people cracking their sorry, I think I might have jostled the camera there. My foot would hit the cable. Where they actually screwed their CPU cooler down so much that it cracked the IHS.
That's a lot.
That's the thing. You also bend pins and like break pins that way too. Oh yeah, people will go crazy. Like it's not like you're lifting up the entire system from your CPU cooler. It's just there to have tension. All of the gap is going to be filled with the thermal paste or thermal goop or whatever you want to call it, your thermal compound. So you don't need to go absolutely just bonkers on it. And just like that, cooler and fan is installed. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Highly, highly recommend, and we like using them because they put out really good products. It looks good. It also matches the system really well, honestly. With the kind of black and gunmetal and
That
brush.
can't possibly be by choice.
Really? I think there's a hint of sarcasm in that.
Totally by choice.
Chris is like tooting his own horn over there of like, no, not like we did that on purpose. Yes, we tend to theme builds. We tend to try to match colors as best as possible. Typically. This is like a high end or like a low end like budget system. Then it's kind of just what we can find that works well. And then looks kind of come second.
Yeah.
And then you have industrial strength awesome, which is just in its own league of
of looks.
of looks. There's nothing on the market that
Literally
match
nothing.
those looks. You're intrigued of what we're talking about is kind of I would call it a Halo project.
Yeah. I would
So
agree.
Halo projects are typically in the automotive industry. They'll use them as like your high-end sports cars, and then that trickles down to all of the rest of their kind of stuff as needed. It's kind of our Halo project.
I'll put a link down below.
Chris will put a link to it. It's a 3-foot by 5-foot wall-mounted computer that we designed and manufactured.
The case.
The case, yeah. And we had some awesome help from some really, really awesome people. Yeah, it's a very fun project, all in all. Sorry, gonna turn this one more time. Hopefully the last time. I'm just installing the 24-pin connector right now. once I toss this 24 pin in, we'll basically be pretty close. I may install the graphics card before I do some final cable management, just to make sure that we have all of the cables in the correct place and all that jazz.
Okay.
But then we'll be pretty much done. Where did I put my scissors? I know they're going to be right in front of my face. It's going to be frustrating when I find them.
I know that they're over there.
I know they are. Ah, there they are. They're underneath the case. I was like, I know they're here. I was using them earlier, so it's like I know they are absolutely here. It's just a matter of where. I'm gonna drop in the. Yeah, we're just amassing a pile of beak-bladed screwdrivers.
Oh, there's another one over there.
I know, there was 5, I counted them earlier on the screen, I don't know if you caught it. There was 5 within arm's reach.
No. You don't understand.
Oh yeah, we have another Dark Rock 4 and
Dark
another
Rock Pro
Pro 4.
dual tower.
Oh gosh, it's the dual tower.
So what?
That would have been funny.
So the dual tower. Oh, I'm gonna put it here.
No worries.
So 2 towers for the heat sinks.
It was basically the cooler that we installed in here just doubled, more or less,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. It is going to be cooling a, without revealing too much, a 9900K. That's basically all that we'll reveal on that. Unless, wait, did you already post that?
Aries is already up.
Oh, it's already up. Okay. Well,
Aries.
Aries. If you want to look up and see, we're not going to post a link. We're going to make you work for it. If you want to see that build, it's actually really awesome build. I think what we're waiting on case.
Case and another fan.
Case and another fan. And once we get all that, then
Which should be here very soon. Very soon.
very soon, TM, trademarked. And once that gets there, we'll do that build. Naturally. That build will be coming soon, TM. Hopefully next week.
It's busy.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. We're trying to kind of normalize, since we're now on YouTube, we're trying to normalize scheduling.
Well,
But there's a big trying on that, and it's not. We'll see. We'll see. Kind of thing. So if you guys are just joining us, welcome to the basically ending of our Saturday morning, afternoon now live stream. This is E2 Brute. It is a system designed for AutoCAD, basically specifically for AutoCAD, and only AutoCAD. This is for a previous client that has got another system from us, which was render on unto Caesar. If you know, you know. That's all we're gonna say. This is another build for them. Awesome people, awesome company. There are links somewhere, I think, previously in the systems and things to that effect. There are links. To them. Sorry, I zoned out. I was in cable managing, and one of those things where you just kind of zone out and you just kind of do. This is typically the part where I tell Will to do something comical. He's not here, as you guys probably noticed by now. There's not a lot of cable management ability in this case, to say the least. Kind of working with what I got, and that's not a lot. But I'm doing half decent, I think, with it. We shall see when it finally comes out. We'll see what it looks like. Hopefully it's, again, half decent. There's not many tie downs in this case, for really anything. So cable management is rough when you don't really have tie downs for things. It makes things challenging, makes life challenging. Those down there. Hopefully I can find something to do with. I think we're going to basically call it. There, I'm going to put one more zip tie, and then I'm thinking I'm going to call it. I'm actually legitimately pretty proud of this cable management, even though there's not much space to manage. I'll turn it around here in a sec because it's done. Oops, not the camera, probably. So for there not being a lot of cable management, that came out pretty decent. What do you think, Chris?
It's pretty good.
Like, I mean, there's no cable management tie downs anywhere on this side of the case. At all.
Not bad.
So I kind of had to wing it. And then the front honestly looks pretty decent with, even though there's no power supply cover, I think I made it pretty decent. Came out kind of nice with it. The only issue that I'm not a huge fan of is there's a little bit of a thing here. But what can you do? That'll get kind of covered up here once we toss that onto here. Captive thumb screws, always nice to see. There we go. So it kind of hides those cables pretty decently. And we're gonna withhold throwing the side panel on, just because it's plexi, and we don't. If it was tempered glass, sometimes we'll do the peel and things, but it's plexi, so it'll get a lot of fingerprints and scratches, so we're going to leave that on for now. And reflections of all of the lights and all of the random things make shooting very, very, very challenging for this. So I'm going to attempt to reach down here and hopefully grab the power cable and not yeet the camera off to the side. That's the goal here. Oops, I guess I could throw the front panel on, can't I?
Yep.
So, power switch is on and the power button kicks on. Awesome. Do we have lights?
Not really.
I don't think we do really have many lights in this case, and I think that was kind of the whole.
That was the point.
There's a little bit of a strip there, kind of, on the side of the motherboard,
Oh.
but not much.
Oh.
But that can also be disabled in software, and all lights can go away. Which is, I think, kind of what the goal was. Hopefully, you're not getting too much wind audio because of the fan. I just kind of stuck my face into that, so I'm going to kind of rotate this a little bit so it's off of me. So this has been E2 Brute. It has been our Saturday morning, afternoon-esque live stream. Just to kind of quickly go over the specs inside of here. It is a 9700K with a Dark Rock 4. It's a Be Quiet cooler. Quickly talk about that. The motherboard is an MSI MPG Z390 Gaming Edge AC. It's actually a really good looking board. For memory, we put in two 8GB 2666 megahertz LPX, Corsair LPX RAM, so that brings it up to a total of 16 gigs. For storage, we have an SSD, which is an HP 512 gig NVMe SSD, lots of acronyms. For a video card, we threw in a Zotac GTX 1060, 6 gig model, excuse me. For power supply, it is an EVGA 650 watt GQ. It's a semi-modular, which still came out really good looking, even though there's no power supply shroud in this case. Speaking of the case, it is a Fractal Design Focus G in gunmetal. I really can't say much bad about this case, except there's not many tie downs and there's not pre-installed standoffs. The look of it makes it look like a really, really expensive case. It's really glossy, like it or paint gloss, up to you. And there's fan filters on all ports except the rear. But you're not using a rear intake in many cases. Looks really, really good. We also then did take out the original white fans we switched them out for some Phanteks PHFM 120 MPs. Just for better noise reduction and better airflow. Kind of just a general overall upgrade on those. This system was used or will be used for AutoCAD for a really awesome company called Currin, C-U-R-R-I-N. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Mm-hmm.
I think I am. Outdoor living. They do landscaping plans, I think. I think it's the technical term for it. Landscaping, we'll just say. Just in general, leave it in general. If you guys want to check them out, there is a link either in the description or if there is not, it will be click on the topflightpc.com link and there will be a link that you can click on in the description of the system. If you guys are also interested in seeing another system that we built for these guys, these awesome people, was Render onto Caesar, which was earlier this year? Last year?
Earlier this year, when was...
I don't know. Chris is kind of checking on that. I'm just quickly scrolling down here.
2019 builds.
Yep, it was earlier this year. Render onto Caesar.
That was right before we built this.
Yeah, it actually was. It was the system before we built Slipstream, which is our rendering computer. So if you guys are interested in just kind of some general things that we do, you can kind of pop around through our build gallery. We have them all organized really nicely by year. Use case, I don't really know. Do we have things organized by use case? I don't think we do.
No.
Yeah. But if you guys are just interested, we have then just in the general kind of previous work, in the what we do, kind of breaks it down by use case. If you're looking for like workstations, gaming PCs, water cooling, system upgrades, etc. and etc. If you are curious about just kind of seeing what we do and wanna are interested in a computer or something similar, one of those workstations, gaming computers, water cooling, or system upgrades, go ahead and just jump on over to our website. There are contact pages at the bottom of every every page, not every system. Just kind of start the conversation. We are pretty proud about this. We have on Facebook and Google, we have a 5.0 5-star rating, which is awesome, of what, 70-ish? 83 reviews, and it's still growing, of a perfect 5-star, which is awesome. Our work kind of shows, as you guys see. If you're also interested in just talking about this build and others and memes and things to that effect, go ahead and drop us a like on Facebook if you're interested in some kind of comical laughs, ha-has, and some other systems that are coming down the line and want to be notified about when we're doing our live streams. We shoot for Saturdays. It's kind of up in the air right now. We haven't nailed that down yet. We've also switched over from Facebook to YouTube for our live streams. Just kind of a PSA there if you didn't know that. If you're watching this, you probably realize that it's on YouTube now, hopefully. I don't think I missed anything.
No.
Like us on Facebook and go to the Facebook group if you're interested in talking about some stuff and need help maybe troubleshooting or just want to kind of voice ideas and things. That is, if you go on, at least on the computer, go to our page, bottom left-hand corner of the screen, there's the Groups tab. You can click on that and request an invite to the Top Flight crew. You want to maybe do that because, hint, hint, there is going to be merchandise only available to that group. So if you are interested in maybe a Top Flight shirt, they look really, really awesome. I don't know, did we post the final renderings of those?
In the group.
In the group, there's the final renderings if you're curious to see what they look like. I think they look awesome. They're in there. And I don't think I missed anything. We will get the second camera, we promise. It'll be done by next stream, we promise. Like, this is an actual thing that we're gonna do. We just need one cable, and Chris and I both have that cable at home. It's a very basic cable, we just need to remember to bring it in. Then we can try to get that camera up and working. It'll be a temporary one. We're going to be switching it out for a higher quality one coming up soon, as well as our audio game is going to be upgraded here pretty soon, even though this is a pretty decent setup for now, temporary. Once we get the second presenter back, we'll wing it. We'll kind of see what it's like until we can get our really big, nice audio setup set up and going. So, I don't think I missed anything. I think that was pretty good outro. So we hope to see you guys next time on the Top Flight live stream. Upgrades are coming. Things will be changing. New systems and new news will be dropping. So follow us on social media, and we hope you have an awesome rest of your weekend. Thank you.